Good evening, everyone. We're at a slightly later time tonight for this session with Raabiha. It's Impression Club After Dark, After Hours, and we're going to chat about journey into sort of practice. Because sure, a lot of you will be following Raabiha. She's sort of gone through that in the last, not sure actually how it's been, 2 or 3 years or so. So we're going to go through that journey straight in. How are we doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I was, well, just introing the intro. And when did you actually buy the practice? Let's get straight to it.
To what year are we? 20, what year are we?
21, maybe.
2020. I bought it in 2020 with my husband and
Ah,
my brother.
so is this pre-COVID, during COVID?
Right at the start of COVID. So we signed the papers April and then the announcement came out to close down all practices. So that was what we did. First day as boss. We're like, here you go, guys. Okay, bye-bye, guys. So, yeah.
That well, yeah, that's a fun start, isn't it? But let's
Mm.
well, we'll rewind a fraction. How you doing? Thanks for coming on.
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Yes, just got baby down for bed, so I'm
Yeah,
ready.
so guys, be quiet. Let's not wake up the baby.
She's got a white noise. We can scream, so we're good. I've got her trained on that thing.
And a lot of people have asked questions about work-life balance. So, what was today for you? Was it a clinical day or?
So I do two clinical days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then the other days it's baby and work from home days.
Nice, nice. So
Yeah.
you're blended working. So for anyone that doesn't know who you are, can you just give us a quick little intro about yourself, and then we'll get started.
So my name is Rabia, and I'm a general dentist. I qualified from Queen Mary's in 2014. Once I qualified, I did my training position in East London, and then I went on there to become a joint DFT trainer. And then I used to work across two practices always, and then I just realised that I don't want to work for anybody else. And then bought the practice that I worked in from 2017. So I own a dental practice with my husband and my brother, as I mentioned, in Isleworth, and it's
Mm.
a mixed NHS practice. And yeah, we bought it during COVID, so we've been winging it from the start.
So obviously, I'm sure obviously if you've signed papers in March, April, then you've obviously had this in the running
Yeah,
beforehand. So it wasn't the opportunistic snap up of practice during COVID. I know there's been a few of that going on, but you've
yeah.
sort of touched on it there a little bit. The first thing obviously is, why have you decided to go into owning a practice? Didn't want to work for someone else?
So at uni, I always thought I wanted to specialize
Hmm.
because all your uni teachers there just make it sound like their profession is the best. So my ortho tutor made me sound like you need to become an orthodontist, and I thought, oh, that's what I'm going to do. And then, I don't know, I qualified, went into general practice, and I kind of realized I like doing a bit of everything,
Hmm.
but I like to do it my way. And I didn't like people telling me what I could use, can't use, how I should do dentistry. And I'd go into my clinic even as a VT, and I'll tell my boss, "You need to paint the wall there. Like it looks dirty," and I don't like patients to come in and think that that's a reflection on me. So from the beginning, I was very much about what my clinic should look like, what my
Hmm.
nurse should be like, and the staff would come in, and sometimes if they were arguing, I'd be like, "What the hell? Like, well, you're arguing in my surgery. Get out!" So there's a certain decorum that I liked, and I realized there's only so much you can do being an associate. And although you are in charge of your team and you're not in charge of everything. So I thought, you know what, I want to start something that I can kind of shape in my own way. And, I went in a little bit naively. We'll talk about that later. But I thought it'd be a lot easier than it actually is to create something of your own.
So you think maybe from the start, your sort of personality type, it was always going to,
Yeah.
not doing it would wind you up because you want that element of control or not. That sounds like
Autonomy.
negative. Yeah, autonomy. There we go.
So
That's
autonomy, I would say.
a nicer way of saying it, isn't it?
Yes.
Control
I
freak.
did it because I am a control freak a tiny bit. That is true.
I think you need to be right. And then you said there, so you worked there for 3 years prior. So that's obviously something else that people need to consider as well. So, how did that come about? Was someone retiring? Was it you approached them?
So when I joined the place, he was about to lose his contract because he had 2 years of breach on it. So I don't know if anybody knows about NHS practices. If you don't meet your targets twice, it doesn't have to be consecutively, but ever on your contract, you can lose your contract, and then you become a private practice. And he was almost about to lose it. So at that time, I was looking for a private job to do alongside my NHS job, and he gave me a really good UDA value, really high, and I was like, holy moly, I'm gonna make loads of money. So I said, I'll come and work for you for 6 months, but then I'm going to leave because I want to work in another place and I'm looking to buy a practice. So I need to get out there and see different things, expose myself to different things before I buy a practice. And so I started working there. And at 6 months came, I kind of told him, like, I'm going to be leaving now after is my notice. So you need to find someone. And then he came to me, he goes, what if this place was for sale? Would you consider staying? And then I said, yeah, okay. Seeing as in those 6 months, I'd turned the practice around quite a lot already. Like, it's good he'd been absent. That's why the practice wasn't doing so well, not because the practice itself wasn't good. So yeah, it's kind of where it started. So that started in 2018. So I joined at the end of 2017. So the process took 2 years to buy it off him. Such a long process. Which is why, even though we knew the pandemic was coming, we signed the damn papers because it took 2 flipping years.
Because it's been too long, too long. What's
So
another
long.
2 years of pandemic? Don't worry about it. That's one of the other things as well people wanted was the process. So we'll come on to that a little bit later. So obviously you've not had to search for practice. You've not gone on the Zoopla of dental practice.
I did. Because so I'd had started it's
So
like
you were sort of
Medistate, Frank and
thinking about it
Taylor.
before.
Yeah, so I've been getting emails from them. So I kind of had a ballpark figure in my mind as to what this was going to cost me. Because obviously you have to start thinking early in terms of finances. So I had been on the search, but because it came to me and I was like, this is even better because every time you'd look at a practice online, it would either go really quick if it was a good price, or what would happen is there'd be bidding wars. So somebody would come in and you'd think, let me put an offer in, and then some other guy would with like a corporate or somebody else with deep pockets or bank of mummy and daddy would come along and put an extra 40-50K on top, and it's like it's not even worth that, but that's what would happen. So that does happen a lot.
And I think there's been a lot of that at the moment. People have sort of taken the opportunity in COVID, whether it's because of uncertainties and people want to get out, but it's also, I think there's a lot more competition because I think a lot more associates during, particularly that first 6 months of the pandemic, thought, I think I need a bit more autonomy here. But I think it wasn't obviously the easiest time to be a practice owner either, so I'm not sure it was.
I wanted to sell it. If anybody asked me, do you want? I'm like, hey, take it back. At one point, I was like to my husband,
Was this the third week of April? You're just like, nah, 2 weeks of this. Nah, I'm good.
I was just like, please, can we do is there a return on this purchase? Like, just take it back. Take it back.
You'd already taken the tags off. You're stuck with it then.
Damn it, yeah, I had. I'd been taking it for a ride. So
in terms of if you are searching for places, you mentioned so there's a couple of sort of practice agencies, is it that works it, or how does that work? So Frank and Taylor,
Medi Estates. There's a few others. One company I'm not a fan of right now, so I'm not going to mention their name, but there are a few. Bit of drama happened back in the end when we were doing. Yes, other agencies are available, but yeah, Medi Estates.
Let's set up a Zoopla of dental practices, comparison, bring it all together. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, practice. Compare the practicemarket.com.
Yeah. So you can then go onto these and it's literally like you would on a Zoopla.
Yeah.
You look
I was looking for my phone then. My phone's here. I was going to say, if you go on, you can see, you can put in filters. So you can put in private, mixed, you can put roughly how much you want to kind of spend on it. But whatever budget you have in mind, you'll put it in. It's not going to be there. So have a look at the prices first because practices are really expensive, really expensive.
And then probably from your point of view, your way of doing it's probably the nicest because you've already got an ear to the ground, the situation, the staff, the patient base.
Yeah, so it has its pros and cons. So obviously the pros are that I knew the team, I knew that, there's good patients coming in here. I knew what the equipment was like, so I already kind of had an idea of what it would be like, the commute, the feasibility of it. But the hard part was obviously buying from somebody who's already working in the practice. So whether they're going to stay on, not stay on, and how your relationship changes with that person. And also the fact that it took 2 years. So he obviously he had a price in mind. and then the valuers had a price in mind, and then we had a price in mind, and so trying to
Mm-hmm.
kind of negotiate that's also really tricky. And then also when you buy the practice, you go from being an associate, which I was in there, and having an associate relationship with the staff, to all of a sudden having a boss relationship, and that's really, really hard to
There's
change,
a bit of
and
a
I really
switch you've
struggle
got
with it.
to,
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's really, I think that I still don't think I've managed to switch it. I think I'm still their friend. So it's kind of, yeah. Luckily, there's three of us. So we've given each of us a role. So I get to be the good guy and they can
yeah,
complain to
yeah,
me
yeah.
and, vent to me. And then my husband's the bad guy because they think he looks a bit scary. I don't know if he's in the gym right now. So yeah, so so he gets to play bad cop because I don't think I could do it because they just wouldn't see me that way. For 3 years I've been their friend and they complained about the last boss to me, which was actually really good because I knew not what to do, like don't do what he did because they didn't like that.
Yeah,
And
so you already had the behind the scenes of sort of what the gripes were, and you can get an easy bit of brownie points by fixing a couple of the
yeah, a
annoyances.
lot
Yeah,
of things, fixing a lot of things, yeah.
yeah, and then you sort of touched on it already of feeling that you wanted to do whether it was a master's or some trade to feel like you were ready to do it. Is there, how did you know that you were ready to do it? Was it simply too good of an opportunity to say no to? What was
So a lot of
the
people ask that
point?
question, when's the right time to buy kind of thing? And I think it varies from person to person. Obviously, there's finances you have to consider first, whether you can afford
Mm-hmm.
it. Secondly, I always say you need a good team. So there are people who bought practices by themselves, but they're dying. So I wouldn't recommend it. I really think if you can go in with a partner, go in with a partner. It's so like it's going to sound a bit sexist, but being a woman, I got pregnant as when we bought the practice. So during my entire first year, I was pregnant, and then I had a baby. So had I left at that time, like who would be watching the practice? So I had my
Mm.
brother and husband helping me out. So if you can have a friend or a colleague or someone you trust or a partner, a husband, brother, friend, whatever, to start the business with, I think that's so important. And it
And on
was
that,
so
people that
helpful.
don't know, husband's not a
Yeah.
dentist. Your brother's
No.
not a dentist either.
Brother's a dentist. Yeah,
Brother's
yeah.
a
He's my
dentist.
younger
Yeah,
brother. Yeah, I don't know. He's a dentist, but husband's not a dentist. No,
yeah.
he's a paraphysio, osteo, whatever. Also managing the practice right now. So
And he's agreed by proxy to come on and do a live Cairo session with us in the new year. So that's great.
totally,
But you
totally.
say it's even just having someone else as a figure there to lean on. I mean, my foundation practice, for instance, it was two brothers. The dad was the original owner and dentist, and the
Ah,
brothers are completely, they're business and they're not dental clinical at all. And they've got
oh.
then a clinical director, the senior dentist. When they took over, he became the clinical
Mhm.
director. So that's how that sort of practice works as a three there, and it worked
I think it
nicely.
works really well, actually. You wouldn't think, but because Khalil isn't a dentist, he comes up with different ideas and a
Different
way of thinking
perspective,
for things
yeah.
completely. And 'cause I feel like dentists, all of us think the same, and we have a kind of a one track kind of mind, whereas he
Mm.
comes at a problem from here, and we're like, oh yeah, I didn't think of it like that. So it's really good, actually. So yeah, I would even say if it's a non-dentist you partner up with, yeah, great, as long as you trust their business sense and you trust them,
Mm.
just trust
Mm.
them as a person. I think that's really important.
Because that's what, and we're going to get onto the balance later. Obviously, there's a lot of time involved. There's a lot of, well, let's be real, there's stress involved when we're talking these sums of money. It's, yeah.
Yeah.
And whilst we're on that, then sort of, obviously, you've got quite a close relationship. It's a brother and a
Yeah.
husband. So,
Yeah, really close.
do you think that's something that works well? Obviously, that's again going to have its pros and cons to having maybe even not friends, but sort of colleagues or something going in together like that way.
I know people who have done colleagues. I know husband, wife. I know lots of people who have done it, and they always say they're so glad they've done it with somebody and
Mm-hmm.
not alone. Because it's a lot of stress to manage by yourself, and like you said, financially. And when we were applying to the bank as well, they gave us a loan based per dentist, which was
Mm-hmm.
really interesting because we'll talk about it later in terms of getting finance. But when you approach banks and you give them a business plan, okay, you want to buy X practice, why you want to buy it, you write up a business plan. But then obviously it was me and my brother. So they were like, okay, we'll give you X amount of money loan based on you and X amount based on you. So we
Mm-hmm.
got double what we would have otherwise if I applied by myself. I would have had to raise
And
more
they just
capital.
ignored Khalil. They were like that.
Yeah, because he
Okay.
can't actually buy. So actually, that's an important note. I know we're getting a bit off track, but if you're
No.
buying an NHS practice,
Okay.
you can't actually buy it if you're not a dentist. So
Ah,
she
private, is
owns
that
the
different or
private's different. The NHS contracts can only be owned by NHS, or not NHS, but only by dentists.
someone with an NHS performer number on? Yeah.
Yeah, so you're the only one who can buy it. So how it worked was me and my brother, the contracts, NHS contracts in our name, but the business, so we had to
Hmm.
create a business, and that's where the accountants and lawyers come in and they do all their shady stuff. Completely legal, by the way. Before you said HMRC, yeah, so it's completely legal, and then they create and they create a framework where you've got okay, this is the business, and
Hmm.
that's owned by me, my husband, and my brother. So that's how that works.
Perfect. And then sort of we've said how you knew you're ready, but any specific skills that you think you need? And obviously, again, if you've got more people, you can cover more skill sets. But what would you say are the sort of, three or four like key skills? You've already said a couple that, you already have a certain attention to the detail, maybe,
Yeah.
or the business side
Well,
of it.
well, us three have split it. So I'm kind of I deal with like all practice complaints, staff, kind of managing them and their well-being and any issues that they have in the day-to-day kind of
The
concerns
soft
with them.
skills side of it,
Staff
sort
and
of
patient skills, yeah, I like that. Yeah, we're the head of soft skills. And then my husband,
thing.
he's a practice manager, so he actually keeps the practice running and stops it from burning down. And they call him Mr. Fixes. So I'll clear all this vote, and then he fixes everything, and he just keeps that place running. So that's him. And then my brother does the finance side of side because I'm crap at math, so I still can't do mental math. So he does all the paying the staff, finance, stock kind of side of things. So it's nice we kind of split it. But key skills that you would need going from associate dentist to an owner would be actually like business skills, and they don't teach you that
Mm,
in dental school. So
yeah.
understanding finances, understanding how books work. If you're like me and you don't understand how your tax works and you just give it to your accountant, then you're kind of screwed. You need to start understanding numbers and understanding compass and understanding pay,
Oh, Compass. I don't
understanding
miss Compass.
firing and hiring people. Like I didn't know that. So we hired someone and I didn't know, okay, so we need to have certain contract in place, all the documents you need. And then I had to fire her because she was useless. And I was like, okay, she's creating problems. Let's fire her within 2 weeks. And then I just sit there Googling, like, how do I legally fire someone? Like, what are her rights? What is the
Mm.
process? I have to call a little meeting, informal meeting, giving her warnings. So there's so much to it.
The paper trail that you
Also,
needed and things like that. Yeah.
yeah, paper trail, exactly. And, so there's no unfair dismissal and reading about that. And so it's really, really important to get savvy on those things. And obviously, I comply. So learning stuff like management skills. I think people skills are really important. So not just people skills with patients and how to explain dentistry, but how to manage a team and how
Mm.
to keep them happy. And we had it during a pandemic. So trying to sound like we know what's happening when we have no idea what's happening, that's really hard. So having those kind of business skills are really, really important.
And how do you think you'd go about developing those skills? Obviously, some of them are going to be transferable, as you say, from, you were, well, before you were already sort of, you were
Yeah,
the pal with everyone at work before. So obviously that
yeah.
helps. You've got, as I say, patient communication skills that you can transfer. Obviously, business side of it, is that just
So you
doing
have
some
to speak to
courses? Is
people.
that just reading some books? Like,
I don't see any courses out there, to be honest. So it was speaking to people that I know own businesses. I have 5, 6 cousins who own dental practices. So speaking to them and be like, okay, what do you do? And so I do have certain people that I'll message regularly
mhm.
to be like, okay, what do I do here? And even every day I'm learning. Like, oh, there's lots of things I don't know. So I'll message them and be like, what can I do? And I had really like nice people during my journey because I documented it on Instagram. People reach out to me and be like, oh, you could try this and giving advice, which was really nice. And then just kind of Google was one of my friends when it came to certain things. But then also, my sister-in-law was a lawyer, so asking her when it came to contractual things and being part of the BDA, they have standard contracts on their
Mhm.
side, and they
Mhm.
can give you one-to-one advice as well when it comes to staffing issues and things like that. So there is a lot of help you can get out there, but there's not one place. So we need to
Mm.
create that. You're
There we
onto
go.
something.
That's the next one-stop shop, isn't it? That's what we need.
Yeah,
So we've identified our practice. We've decided if we want to go NHS mixed
yeah,
private because
yeah,
we've done all the filters on Zoopla, and
yeah.
then or well, can we talk about your sort of journey in it? Say you're working in a place that you're then moving into. So how does that process, that 2 year process, how does that go? He's obviously said, would you be interested? You've sort of said yes, and
Yeah.
then what
So then
you're
it just
you're
comes down
building up a
to
plan going to the bank.
So yeah, so what happens is he had to get it valued. So he approached someone, a company, Med Estates, and said, "Look, I've already got a buyer, so we can skip that with you advertising. But what we want to do is come up with a price. So I need you to come value it." So he got someone to value it. We got someone to value it, though who shall not be named because they should not. I can't badmouth them, and I don't like them. But yeah, so they also came and valued it for us, and so we had two valuations, and then we kind of like, okay, ours says X and yours says Y. You want Z. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
where do we meet? So, it's a bit of negotiation goes into it. And then, come to a price, and then it's raising that finance. So, then you can use a particular company. So, you can either use lawyers or accountants, or even the company that you approach. So, if you go with Medi Estates or Frank and Taylor, you can ask them, like, do you have anybody who can help me raise finance? So, you have independent people that will go to the bank and say, okay, they've got a practice that they want to buy, which is worth £2 million. We need 2 million. Um, Here's kind of a business plan. A lot of them have made up business plans that you can tailor to your own.
Yeah,
So they'll
that's
have
what I was going to
something.
say. You've obviously got to produce this business plan.
It's
Say,
huge. It's huge. It's like who makes a business plan that fat, that fat? I ain't got time. So they make it for you, and then you edit it like, okay, this is what you hope to do. You hope to extend it. You hope to make more money by doing X, Y, and Z.
this is the
You know,
template we need on the course as well, by the way.
yeah, because when they value it, they give you a document this fat of the
Yeah.
valuation of the practice. And then obviously, if it's valued at X, does the bank want to give you X?
Hmm.
Well, how are you going to prove that you can make X back? Showing them the accounts, because obviously you've had, in the buying stage in those 2 years, we've also looked at his last 3 years accounts, which is really important when you're buying a practice, is to look at the last 3 years accounts. And then the bank will say, okay, you can see here you had dips and things. So how are you going to manage them? How are you going to manage your cash flow? So having cash flow projections as well done by an accountant. So you work really closely with your accountants, your lawyers, and the estate team, whatever estate team you go for. And then they will, when you get your business plan that's given to a bank, then the banks will give you offers. So they'll say, okay, we'll give you a 25-year mortgage with 20% interest, and there's something ridiculous, and then you pick which one you want,
Hmm.
and based on your experience, your age is how many offers you will get. So the independent finance guy said to us that because you guys are both really young, and I was, what am I now, 30, so I was 28 and my brother was 26. So it's
Hmm.
like, you guys are actually really young, your interest repayments are going to be higher, and you're only getting two offers.
Yeah.
So we got one from Barclays Bank and one from some other guys. Went with Barclays, that's why I remember them. But there was another one. So he approached a couple of them, but only two gave us offers. Basically based on he was like, it's a lot to do with your age and experience. So I said, oh. And then obviously we look at the terms. I thought, okay, we compared the two. And we thought, okay, they came up with slightly better, and they gave us a longer term of 25 years and slightly better interest repayments. We're like, okay, let's go
Hmm.
with these guys. Can't be picky here. We've got A or B.
And
So
then once you've
that's,
sorted that, and you've obviously that's sort of based on the agreement you've already got about you've all sort of
yeah,
met it, you've already met
yeah.
a Z or whatever.
Mm.
Um, I guess you've then got to go into, how the handover is going to take place. Is the dentist staying on? Because obviously that's quite a common
That's
thing. They've got
all
to
done
do
by your
what,
lawyers.
three, fine. So that's sort
So
of,
they will write up a contract, right? And my advice
mhm,
would always be not to ideally keep on your old boss, because obviously they're changing from a principal position to an associate position. And although they might think it's easy, it's not easy, because you go from deciding that I'm only going to come in at 12 o'clock and see 5 private patients to being like, well, actually, we need you to work 9 to 5. Otherwise, my
mm,
practice is not making money between 9 and whenever you've decided to come in. And, we need you to see X patient. So the dynamic can change. And if you've got a nice relationship, you don't want to ruin it. So personally, I would say do not keep
mm.
them on. It's a bit of a mess.
And I guess
So no.
there can be that side of it of, close to retirement, nice little payout, sort of just whatever. As you say, I'm just going to rock up and do this, that, and the other. But you actually might want to have it filled with
And then obviously the
something.
staff get confused as well, because that person was boss before, and it's like, how do I treat this person? And they were initially our previous owner did stay on for a little bit, and we're like, do we do what he says, or do we do what you? That they're obviously checking everything through us, but really confused and feeling awkward because that person's been their boss for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I wouldn't advise it. Um, where were we? I always like to drift.
We're right there. I think that's fine. I think well, you touched on staff, so that was another one of the questions. Is how do you? This is probably coming from more not your situation. If you're then coming into a practice, is how do you sort of um, evaluate the staff? How do you find the people that are going to work with you well? You know,
It's
obviously,
the
you've had
hardest thing.
experience there, right? Obviously now you've got the different side of hiring new people. So
Yeah,
how
that's
do
the
you go about
hardest
that when you look
thing.
at?
Honestly, there are times where I'm just like, if we could get all the jobs done by robots, I wouldn't be stressed. I think one of the biggest stress, and I'll speak to any person who owns a practice will give you the same answer. It's staff.
Mhm,
It's the dentist, the hygienist, the nurses, the reception, because if you get one bad egg, it really messes up the whole vibe, it creates a lot of drama. And we've had that in the lot. We've only been owners for a year and a half, and we've had it, and it's been
mhm, mhm,
horrible. And then trying to managing the hiring, the firing of that is really difficult. And then now, because of Brexit, the well is dry. Trying to hire a
yeah.
nurse is a nightmare, trying to hire a hygienist is a nightmare. So then you've got this really like narrow pool of staff that you can hire from, and then trying to find the best of that and then getting them in there, training them up, and then just being like, man, nobody likes this guy now. Like, what do we do? So then you
Mhm.
have to start it again. So it's really hard. Like, we've got a new receptionist now that everyone loves, thank God, because we've been through like 3 in the last year. So we had one constant, and we're just trying to find one to work with her. And
Mm.
everyone loves music, so I'm really happy. And she's Canadian. She flew over, and I was like, and my staff were making a joke, are you just like hiring them from abroad now? And I said, yeah, totally. And
But
she's great.
across the industry, though, the recruitment follow Chris Barrow's stuff quite closely, and he was on
Yeah,
back end of last month, and that's all that seems to be coming out is that the recruitment is the tough thing at the moment. Whether it's, as you say, a lot of people maybe went home with COVID and then didn't
yeah,
come
yeah,
back because of Brexit, and or thought I'm just going to
yeah.
stay here or whatever it is. But yeah, recruitment, that's the tricky thing. So is that, and it's is it more just there's not anyone there, or is just maybe there's
It's
because there's less, the quality obviously is
yeah, it's
the quality is
everything.
the same on average, but there's less of them to sort of choose from.
Yeah, to choose from, and then getting them to work with the team well, and that's hard integrating people and training them up, and then if it's a letdown or it doesn't work really well, it's just like going through that process again, and it's like emotionally draining for everyone, not just us. It's also for the other nurses. It's also for the reception team. Trying to get someone to fit in and then don't fit in, or there's problems or there's issues. Then it's just like all of that emotional baggage.
Mm.
And what it's like being a dentist anyway. Patients can be a nightmare. So now if you've got staff that are nightmares, like it's double nightmare.
And is
So it's quite
dentists sort of dentist recruitment, is that as big of an issue, or is that more sort of
we haven't
stable?
hired any new dentists in the last year,
Because
so
it's
we don't know.
impossible.
We haven't had to, and our practice is small, so we can't really fit anybody in there anymore. But yeah, apparently that's really, really hard. Like I've heard lots of people saying they're struggling to find associates.
Hmm.
So that's another one.
Because I
It's
think,
tricky.
as a lot of associates wanted to go into, I think there's been a big spike in squat practices and things like that. But as well, wanting that autonomy. And I think in terms of then like moving forwards, or well, actually, that's one thing I want to ask you actually that no one has asked yet is how has it actually been with NHS targets and the
It's really
unknown and the 60% and the
It's
45%?
annoying because they keep increasing it, yet we're having to keep them, the staff, salaried.
Mm-hmm.
So the new staff obviously paid per UDA, but the old staff are salaried. So when they hit the targets, they stop. But obviously our target's a little bit more, and you want to go over because we can't, as a practice, breach because our last person has already breached twice. So we can't afford to. A breach is when you don't hit your target. So we can't afford
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
not hit our target because we'd lose our contract. So we keep on track of it. Like on a weekly,
And you
we have like
inherit that
Excel
as
spreadsheets.
the new owner, because it's just
Yeah,
the
yeah.
at the
You
end of the
don't get
day,
to
it's
start
just
again.
contract number 865.
Yes,
It's
because
not
you
that.
have to remember you cannot technically buy or sell an NHS practice. So how it works is you
You get a
become a
long-term
partner.
leasehold of the contract.
Yeah, so the lawyers do this, and it's done across the board that you become a partner with the previous um, owner, and then
Yeah,
he decides to eventually retire. And then
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
okay, I'm the only one left owning it. So that's how the lawyers do it. But technically, you're not allowed to buy or sell an NHS practice. So when you're buying
Fine.
one, that's what will happen.
Mm-mm-mm. And then they just and where is it now? Because I don't do any NHS stuff. But is it 80 odd percent? Is it or
Yeah, so no, it's at 65 right now, but
so
that has been
65?
hard.
It's going up,
Yeah,
is it, in January or something?
it's going up and up and up. So when it goes back to normal, hopefully it will be fine. It's just this annoying kind of percentages they have in the middle, and then we have to pay the staff differently, and then they've got this rebate, and they're taking random percentages off the PPE that we have to take that we don't want because we have no space to put the damn PPE. So they've got this thing where they are saying that, okay, we're giving you a reduction, okay, and you've got some extra money, but actually you owe us that money because we're giving you free PPE. So it's technically, it's really weird. It's not free PPE. You're paying them for it.
It's a
But if you
finder's
don't take
fee.
it, yeah, and like if you don't get this extra PPE, it's just like you're just losing all this money. And so we're like, okay, well, let's just keep taking the PPE because we're paying for it. But it's like, where do we stock this PPE? So you buy storage to keep all this PPE. It's
Well,
a
we're running
mess.
low on medium gloves, so you can send some my way if you like. That'll be good.
Come. I'm going to start a side hub. We've got a side gate. I'm just going to start selling PPE through the gate. There you go. Medium gloves.
That
Any
would be good
gowns?
early doors. We've got a couple of things have just popped in. Well, Zainab just said, hey. So Zainab's here, so Zainab can give us some insight as well.
We
Question
actually
is
have a mum boss group together.
amazing.
So there's 13 of us that are practice owners, women that have children. So I was like totally,
Oh, ace.
drowning, and then all these women came along and like, we're doing the same thing. I went, thank God, and Zainab's one of them, and it was really nice to have each other just to kind of help
To
each other
drown
through how we
together.
manage. Yeah, basically, and how we balance mum work life balance.
Well, I think that's our next question. But Dr. Carl Smiles asks, going into a new practice, what would you say is the most important thing to do as the new owner?
So obviously building relationship with the old staff, especially if they had a really good one with the old boss. I know my staff will cry when I leave them. I make sure they're super happy. So any new guy's gonna, yeah, definitely cry when I leave them. Better cry when I leave them. Not that I'm planning to, but I mean, I think it's really important for them to know that you're not going to be. One, they have a fear of their jobs. Like, are you? It's weird because I was their friend for 3 years. I don't know why they kept thinking I'm going to fire them. So that's that coming from a friend. I was saying that.
Speaking of bedtime,
Yeah. I'll be here. So is that kind of just that fear? So reassuring them that you're not coming here to fire people, and if you are making changes, kind of involve them. So when we came in, the pandemic happened. We were closed for 3 months, and we couldn't furlough our staff. So we still made sure we paid them. We made sure their jobs were secure. So we just paid them from our own. So made sure they had their wages. We reassured them that their jobs are theirs. We're not looking to replace them. And took their input, and we said, okay, so what do you think? What colour should we paint this reception? Chairs. Is that front chair comfortable for your reception desk? No? Okay, let's change it. Like,
it
what
was
are your
almost
suggestions?
quite
We
a
gave
good
them.
time for that, right? Because everything could just stop for a little while and
Yeah,
just
we were very lucky in that sense. Although we
yeah,
had no money coming in
yeah.
because we were closed, we had that chance to kind of bond and kind of build a relationship. But I definitely would say take them out, take the staff out, listen to their concerns, give them like books to write down all the issues they have. And they all have one, even now, a little book in their pocket, any concerns, they write it in there. And then we'll be like, okay, tell us your concerns. Like, okay, you're not happy with this, you're not happy with this, right, let's fix this. And always just trying to take their feedback, because we have always patient feedback, but what about staff feedback and making them feel happy and making them feel comfortable,
Is that
and
something
making
you've
yourself
formalized
available.
at a monthly meeting or something like that? Or
Yeah, so because I've been on maternity leave, that's actually my job. So actually, I'm the one who just kind of checks in with them anyway. But we've now put it in the diaries where we've got monthly kind of just meets, so we can just talk about a few things, and also if they've got any concerns, they can talk to us. But they know we have an open door policy.
yeah,
So any issues straight away, they come to me with their woes. So anything from health problems, family problems to work problems, I hear it all, and I make sure I speak to them about it. If they haven't come to me, I'll go to them. I'll be like, how are things? How's everything at home?
well, Dr. Carl's whose question that was says he loves the individual concern book. It's a great idea. So there we go. Hopefully that's the top tip for him there.
Yeah, no, it works. It really works. And they keep it in their pocket, and I'm like, oh, put it in there, just make sure you put it.
The book. When the book's half out, you're thinking, "Oh, there's something going on here." You got to clock it.
Do you know there's barely anything in there though. It's usually when we're having the high staff turnover, we're like, yeah.
Always the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've touched on it a couple of times, and we've said we're going to save it for later. So let's jump onto it now. Work-life balance or work balance, clinical versus admin.
Yeah.
How does that change compared to being an associate?
So being an associate is so easy. Anybody who complains, all these
You're
guys
not
trying to
selling
buy
it to me
practice.
right now. You're really not. I'm not. I'm
I'm
not
not
feeling
even
like I'm going
trying
to
to
close
sell
this
it.
down and get on
They've got it.
practicesutra.com.
They've got it so easy. Oh my God. You know, when associates complain to me, I'm like, what are you talking about? Your life is piss easy. Okay, excuse my French. It's so easy. It's so easy. You go in 9 to 5, you do your job. If you've got a good relation, and I'm not starting with bad bosses. If you've got a bad boss, get out. Okay, so that's different. If you go and find a place you like to work at. There's loads of vacancies out there, and there's good bosses they can apply to. But if you've got a good boss, you're seeing the kind of patients that you like, then you have nothing to complain about. It's so easy. You walk out the door at 6 o'clock. Who cares that the suction broke and, all of a sudden your boiler went bust and you have to pay someone 3 grand to do that. And all of a sudden, you have to pull in one day we had, I don't know what happened, some evil juju in that practice, right? So the aircon stopped working, the pay card wasn't working, the suction just blew up in one room. All of a sudden, the chair that in the other surgery that never had Legionella, we keep it so clean and we use like Alpron, all of a sudden tested positive. It was a false positive, but positive for Legionella. And we're like, crap, so we can't use this chair. And there was just like 150 things. And one staff was like, oh no, I have to go home. Something's going on. I was like, what's happening? Like all at one time.
Mm.
And then, so as an associate, you don't have to worry about that. Or you don't get the message at 12 o'clock at night that, oh, I can't come in tomorrow. And you're like, oh, you've got a full diary. So I need to sort that out. And you've got some private crown fits and you've got that angry lady that's been cancelled 3 times and the receptionists don't want to speak to them. They're like, no, we don't want to handle this lady. She's going to swear at us. So it's like so much that you don't have to worry about. And like, maintenance of things like, last week we just paid someone 3,500 to fix some electrical thing. I'm like, what? And then somebody just came in and, for 5 minutes to tell us this is the problem. That'll be £250 just to be like, this is the problem. I'm like, well, you didn't even fix anything. It's like 5 minutes is my expertise. I'm like, damn it sounds like a dentist. And then, he left.
That's that emergency consult for pericoronitis.
Basically. So it's just like you don't have to worry about these things. You don't have to worry about the staff. You don't have to worry about, cover, things breaking down. So that's why a tip for those who are thinking to buy practices, you can't put all your money into it. You have to make sure you've got lots of money and extra money for as soon as you start the practice, because so many things are broken. Like when we walked in there, I'm pretty sure half the stuff was held together with glue. It seemed fine, but we're like, oh, this is now, the toilet started leaking one day. And I've been there for 3 years and nothing was the issue until I was like, oh. And then the plumber came, I was like, this was done dodgy. And we're like, oh. And then all of a sudden, an electrical problem. Oh, this was done. You've got 56 wires here and you only need 2. And we're like, they've just been adding wires in there. So you don't realize, it's like when you buy a property, you don't know there's going to be a leaky roof or something. So you have to have all those extra funds to deal with all the crap that can happen.
Yeah.
That you're
So by that you mean, so essentially don't borrow to your absolute limit. Make sure that you've got a kitty there still to be able, as a contingency.
Have the kitty. Like we don't take out any of our, that's another thing. Everyone thinks that you make more money as a practice owner. No, you don't. You really don't. I am making the same that I used to make when I was working 3 days with no stress. And so it's not, because you end up putting a lot of your money back in to pay off your loans, the rainy day kitty. Like we don't extract a lot of our money just to keep it in there. We bought ITO scanner. We're just trying to buy all the new things, intraoral cameras, making sure our staff have whatever they ask for. We try to get them what we can. If they want the newest apex locator or this weird burr that cuts something in a special way, I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's just get it for you. We'll get it for you. So, being dentists, that helps that we know that, okay, they need it and they'll make it work. So we're always investing back as well. So I think you have to have a good reason as to why you want to buy it. And that's the first thing I say to anyone, how do you know if you're ready to buy practice? Do you have your why? So you've got your finances, you've got your business plan, your partners, your support network, but do you have your why? Why do you want to buy it? If you want to buy it to get rich, you should have done that like 10 years ago when my old boss did. That guy sucked at practices and he was like, ooh, loads of money. So that's when you should have done it. Now I think you have to have a vision, something you're trying to build towards.
And you take satisfaction out of that.
Yeah, and that is the struggle you choose, right? That's what you're gonna pick, like what's gonna make you happy in it. And at the start, I think only recently now I'm coming to terms with it, how much time it takes out of my life. I hated it. I hated being a practice owner. I really did. I was like, oh my God, it's taking up so much of my time. Like I don't have any evenings free, no weekends free. I'm always on, my brain's all, and it's like that now. But I'm accepting it because I realized I do like the pros of it. I do like, being able to help my staff and support them and kind of build that vision and having that autonomy. And who would, if I worked for someone else, nobody let me do half days because my baby's allergic to cow milk. I had to feed her myself. So I came in half days first, and then I came in like 3/4 days. And then, now I'm up to 5 and doing 2 days. And being my own boss, I can do that. So it's just those kind of little perks that I have being boss that I like. But I think you have to really figure out, why are you doing this?
Yeah. So the other balance, it's not all rosy, right? So the
No, I
other
think people who
balance
follow my story know.
yeah, it's no.
It's just not.
So again, you're not selling it. You're really not selling it to us. It's not all as
That was
roses
never
as
the
it is,
plan.
people. There wasn't the focus. It was to warn people. The other
It was.
balance then you said is clinical versus admin. So you said you're 2 days,
2 days clinical. So I've never actually worked more than 4 days. So when I qualified, I did 4 days, and then I went down to 3 days. And I've always been at 3 days for the last 3 years. And that worked really well because I noticed whether I worked 3 or 4, I was making the same money. Because I find the fewer days you work, you're more, what's the word? Slip my mind.
It's like efficient, isn't it?
Yeah, efficient, that's the word. You're more efficient in those days, and that, so I used to work Monday and I used to work really hard, but that's fine, you can book a patient in the end, I'm cool with that, and just, do your maximum because I knew the next day I was going to be off. I'd recuperate, rest, then Wednesday I'd work and I'd do max again on that day, recharged, and then Thursday I was off and I'd work Friday, and I loved it. Then I had the weekend, I'm like, oh. So I was never exhausted and I was really efficient on the days that I was in. And the tax man, who literally killed me that first year, wasn't taking any more money, more of my money. So I thought, why work more days to him take more money and for me to lose my peace of mind? So this way I could do, work out on those days off. I could do lots of my Instagram on my days off. So, and I started working on my book then. So it was just so much more time to do other things other than clinical dentistry. So it's not like you're not working, you're just not doing clinical work.
Yeah, I was waiting for the book. I was waiting for it. Drew from Trubel saying, that's part of business ownership. It's a 24/7 job. Absolutely. It's easy to think it's just dentistry, but it's not. It's a whole different side of it, business. And he follows it up with the nevertheless, whoever's looking to get into business, I'd dive in. It's exciting. The Whitechapel dentist, she said, that's why we live. I'm assuming that's love, Raabiha. She says it how it is. No holding back. We're after hours, aren't we? But after 8:30, after the watershed, we can do whatever we want, right?
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the book there. How's it going? It's got some great pictures of impressions in it.
Oh yeah. There's this great dentist. Yeah. He always puts pictures of
Minesh
gloves and
Patel, they're
teeth.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it is his actually. His pictures are phenomenal, and your dentures are great. We used everything you sent us. Thank you so much. It's so
I've got
nice having
such
people
nice
help.
photos now, though. So when there's a second edition, we'll swap them out. Yeah.
2023, we're aiming for book 2 because we've learned more. We know what to do, what to look out for. We know extra chapters to add. So this first one was really like a guinea pig, and then hopefully now the second one will be even better.
For anyone who's not in on our in-joke about our your it's a denture book, guys. It's great. Just give us a little intro on what that book is, because it's a really, really cool project.
It's part of the reason why I tell people to work part-time, because you can do other things other than clinical dentistry. Dentistry is so varied. You can lecture, teach. And I was approached by Nicola, who had an idea for a book. And she said she had it for years, but she couldn't execute it because she was too busy. And I said, okay, I'll come along, fresh face 2 years ago. No practice, no baby. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll help. And her idea was, because she's been
6 months
explaining
later, practice baby.
Yeah, practice baby halfway through the book, like, oh my God, I'm dying. So that's kind of what happened. It was exactly how it happened. And the idea was to break dentistry down into like simplified chunks for people to follow in clinic, because both her and me have been beauty trainers, and we realized that they would ask us the simplest questions, like, what do I do next, and what bird do I use, and if I do a complete denture, what step should I say? And so this idea of the book was just to make it really simple general dentistry, because dentistry is so huge, so trying to condense it into a book was a nightmare. And every time I'd write something like the endo chapter, I'd go and research it. There's 65 different ways to fill a canal or prep a canal, and different tools, and whether you irrigate and don't irrigate, what do you use to irrigate? And I was like, okay, let's just go basic. So we have a little disclaimer right at the start. This is what we do. This is like the most basic way of doing it, but you need to obviously read up more and read books. This is just kind of a guide, just to get those dentists in the early days, just like a little helping hand. But yeah, it's been doing really well, and all my proceeds go to charity, so that's been a really positive thing. And I think a lot of people have been quite excited by that fact, because they feel like they're helping the charity as well as themselves, so that's good. But yeah, it's been good, and I can't wait to do the second one.
And that's the nice bit with the balance. You know, Thursdays is my non-clinical day. You know, I'll be writing Instagram posts, organising guests. But yeah, sorting out, you know, editing all the photos, and yeah, white chocolate. I said, did you upgrade your camera? No, I don't know, kept practicing. I guess you just keep going, don't you? But yeah, I put all that together. I was doing a bit of speaking last week. You know, putting, as you say, a bit of presentations. It's nice to have that little bit of, even if you're still doing dentistry, as you know, you were writing a book. It makes you enjoy the other side of it more by having that bit of balance. So I'll put this to you: do you think you can be a practice owner if you're full-time clinical?
No. It's funny, as you were saying that, I was just thinking that I don't. I'm sure there are dentists that do it, but I actually don't personally know anyone who does full-time work and is an owner. And if they are, they probably have excellent managers that they trust blindly to manage staff, because you do need a really good practice manager. I'm lucky that Khalil is really awesome and does it all, but you need someone who can pick up the slack, because when you're in clinic all the time, then you know what it's like. You're back-to-back patients, you have to keep up to date with notes, you know, referrals, letters. Like, where do you have in time to deal with the staff issues, you know, staff complaints, patient complaints, admin work, ordering, and like fine, you give your nurse to order certain things, but then there's also all the other things, like all your comply and all your management side of things. You also have to manage your manager. You can't just leave your manager, you know, and that's what happened with my previous boss, actually. Why he was in breach of contractors, his dad was unwell, and then for 2 years he was out of practice, and he left his manager in charge of everything. And he came back, and the practice was sinking, the staff were quitting, there was no regular dentist, and you know, every patient was saying, every time I come there's a new dentist here, because they hated the manager. Whereas when you own the practice and you work there and you manage it, you care about it. Like, every Google review matters to me. Like, if someone has something to say, every concern my staff has, every problem, you know, it all matters. It's not like a corporate. This is like my baby, so I'll take care of it. I'll take care of the staff. So you have to be there. And if I'm doing the dentistry, sometimes I don't have the time. I have my lunch break or after work, but that's also kind of exhausting. So you need that day to just come in and check on things and make sure things are going, and how can you improve and how can you develop. What are your plans? Staff meetings. There's so much.
Yeah, I mean, for my practice, is husband and wife.
Yeah.
Nick is there. Well, he's 4 days now as prosthodontist, because he was writing a book. That's the thing to do on your days off. Maybe I should start one. And then
On dentures, do
it. The big book of dentures, like a pop-up book. Yes, I like it.
Yeah.
With a suction noise. We got to work on the practice Zoopla first. Someone just asked, they've just popped into, how do you search for it? So there's various companies, right? Frank and Taylor, etc. But we're gonna get a comparison site sorted.
Comparethepractice.com.
Comparethepractice.com. Yes, meerkats, love it. And then the wife Sarah, she was doing 2 days.
Yeah.
And then eventually, that's when I went full time, and she stopped the 2 days to go full time into sort of management. And we had, you know, management and accounts, but I think she felt that when she was doing 2 days, she was very much sort of pulled between the two. It was when I'm in clinic, practice managers asking me about this. When I'm in the office, you know, patients calling to say referrals, or it's difficult, right? That's I think that's almost a harder balance thread than being like fully involved and you know, sort of having a monthly meeting with the manager or a weekly meeting with the manager or something. So that's
it's important.
Tricky about it. We've got I think there's a question coming up there. I need my loops on for this one. This is very insightful. I'm in the process of taking over a practice within the year. It might be 2 years, you never know. What's your approach with dealing with and choosing labs? Okay. And issues, is that something you do? Obviously yours, had the experience of
Yeah,
working
so
with them
we're
already?
forever changing. So we've got some labs that we really like, and we built up a good relationship with our dental lab actually. So our dental lab is phenomenal. This work is
This is the guy you did the
fantastic.
session with, right?
No, actually, it's not. He was my old tutor at uni.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yep. And then yeah. So
When are
the
they coming
dental
back,
lab is
those sessions, by the way? They were ace.
20 topics. Well, I couldn't leave
Yeah,
because baby before. So now she's getting big. She's almost, going to be one in January. So I will be starting those. I think we're starting with Invisalign. So I will be getting back
nice.
into those. And maybe I'll head you up for some dental ones as well.
On it. On it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say, what on earth was the question? My attention span of a
Labs,
fish.
labs, labs, labs,
Labs,
labs.
yeah. So you'll keep changing them, and your associates will pick as well, and they'll introduce you to something really good. Like, I'm using this lab in my other practice, and you're like, oh, this is quite good. And ideally, you don't really want the staff to be using so many different labs because it's such a nightmare when you come to pay them.
Hmm,
So when
hmm.
you come to pay them, then you're working out, okay, this lab bill came from here, and I paid this lab bill, and you're like, oh, crap, like which associates? So we try to like, be like, here's some fantastic labs we found for you. Try to use them. But if you've got your own, fair enough. But now I think we came up with a scheme actually last week. We're like, okay, on your private sheet, for NHS, everyone's got the same lab. For privates, they've gone outreach for different ones that they've liked. I've said, okay, next to the particular work that you do, just put the name of the lab.
Hmm,
So we
hmm.
know that, okay, we're going to expect certain lab bills for this kind of work from different funky labs. Because some of them use like six, and we're like, okay, so you end up,
Pick
struggling
one
to
for
find the
parents. Just
costs.
pick one.
So
Yeah,
we're
that
gonna
happens a
we're
lot.
gonna
Is
hone it.
associates come to you and say, I'm using this lab for this or that for other. Particularly a new associate comes in and says, well, this is what I've been
Yeah,
doing. Or yeah, working in different places.
yeah.
Get Smile said, yes, do it. I'm hoping that's for the big book of dentures because that sounds like fun. Um, the the other part, which means we're coming to the end of all the questions people have sent us, but you know, hindsight now, as we said to that person who's buying a practice in the next 12 months, hopefully. Um, what do you wish you knew? Well, nearly 4 years ago when you started the
Mm.
process, but having gone through it and done your first 18 months, 2 years, what things do you wish you'd known before? For the three
So
people who you haven't put off buying a practice, what do
I
they
would
need
say
to think?
I
You said
wish I
naive
knew about
earlier.
the
Why do you
time.
say naivety?
Yeah, I guess like so initially I made a big mistake and I signed I talked about the company that I didn't like and they shall not be named. I signed a contract without realizing I'd signed a contract. So it was like as they were going to finance, would go to the bank, approach the banks for certain finance, he said, okay, in order for me to do that for you, I just need you to sign these terms and conditions, do that. Naively, I trusted them. I was in the middle of a clinical day and he's like, look, he messaged me 3 times, you need to sign this so I can go approach the bank. So silly, I didn't read them. And I was just like, let me sign it because he just standard terms. He said to me, it's standard terms and conditions for me to approach a bank. I signed them. And then 2 years later, it came to bite me in the butt because what the contract actually stated was once the practice is sold, I owe them 10% of the value of the sale. Because
Standard procedure.
obviously that is not standard procedure. So, there was a lot. So there's obviously I would say make sure you read all the contracts that you sign. You have some, don't
Have
just
a cousin
like
who's a lawyer.
yeah, have a person who's the lawyer. Like, don't be as trust. Like, I blindly trust. My husband always says you're a bad judge of character, but I always trust everybody, and I'm really open. I'll speak all my truths and my vulnerabilities, and I always just say, just be careful. Everyone still seems really nice to you. Everyone's really happy to help, but they always have their own kind of agenda. So just make sure you
Mm.
read everything that you sign. You get really good accountants, really good lawyers. I'm happy to name my lawyers, Abraham and Dresden. Fantastic lawyers. They actually helped me get out that first contract, by the way. So we had 6 months of debt collectors chasing us. It was a bit of a nightmare at that point because we were like, we can't afford to pay you this
Yeah,
because of the
yeah, yeah.
pandemic and we're paying our staff all the loose money. So what the hell are we going to pay you? And we've already paid you your dues. I didn't understand why we owe you this for nothing.
So
But
they were
yeah, so
literally
we
just
had that.
trying to get a second lump out of you.
Yeah, so they'd been paid. They'd been paid for everything, for the finances, for the sale, for everything. And they took. So we paid the bank their fees. The bank paid them their fees, and they were like, no. On top of that, it says if you read the small print, we are allowed. Obviously, because it was a pandemic, they were struggling themselves. They thought, let's just use they have their own lawyers. Just use their wording to their advantage. It says here we can take it from both parties, including the bank. But we're like, we paid the bank extra fees for your fees, and they've transferred it across.
Everyone's already paid everyone, and they're just trying to get it.
Everyone's paid everyone. This is
Yeah.
extra. So then, obviously, luckily, our lawyers found like a little loophole because of the company name that they'd put and stuff. So we managed to get out of it. So we just paid them. I paid them a little bit extra, but not whatever they were asking for, because that was ridiculous, and not owed to them. Cheeky little buggers. But yeah, so that, and also not realizing how much time the practice takes from you. It takes a lot of time. I think I found it a lot more stressful and a lot more anxiety riding, because I didn't realize how much time it would take for me and how much can go wrong. You when you're an associate, you think, oh, your boss is making so much money, right? You're taking 50% of everything that I earn and paying me X, but you don't realize actually when I did the sum. So I had his name's Rajiv Rawal. I don't know if you've come across him, but he's a great guy. He's been helping me throughout, with the practice. And he came and sat there and did the finances with me. He said, really, when you run a practice, and he went through our books and with us, he goes, you actually make zero money from your associates. The money you only make is actually from your hygienist. And I was like, what? No, look, this is what we meant. And he was, when he sat down, I was like, oh my God, like I didn't realize the associates you're just covering costs. You're breaking even. That's what it's doing. It's you're breaking even. So it's insane. I think I didn't do enough research. I had a dream and I want to do this, I want to become an owner, but I didn't look at the little things that go into it, when things go wrong, and looking into the fine details of finance and how a business operates, and just a lot more. I think people aren't taught it at uni, and there's no way to go and read about it. So I think you kind of just go in all excited thinking, I'm going to be my own boss and make my own rules, and I'll treat them better. But actually you have to realize why your bosses might be acting a certain way. It's really, really hard. We're not making as much money as you think.
Emmy's gone with the 5 thumbs up, so I think that means he hates associates as well. Wait,
is this which Emmy is this?
Emmy Nasser.
Oh yeah, he's a cool guy. His implant pictures are in there in the book.
Oh, Emmy made it as well. Good man.
Emmy made it, yeah.
Some esteemed company. I think, but that's where there's that adage, isn't it? That the barometer of how well your practice is doing is how busy your hygienists are, and maybe that's because they're the top secret profit margin that we didn't know about.
Who flipping knew? I didn't know. Now I'm like, damn, keep that girl busy. Like,
now you're thinking, let's get rid of all the associates and just have hygienists in there.
Honestly, but you need the associates to drive patients to the hygienist. That's
the loophole that you need. They're just there to pad the books out.
That's it. They're just there to get your hygiene cleans in. But yeah, it's shocking.
That's covered all of our. I like the bit when I get to close the book. I don't have to stress about anything now. So that's all of our written questions that people have pre-submitted. If anyone's got any other questions whilst the baby's still asleep, we've got to fill until Zainab can get back on.
There's my associate Prayer at the bottom. Prayer, am I a good boss? She's got a crying laugh face with her. Yeah, put something nice down there.
A book full of hygiene tomorrow. That's the problem.
Yeah, I'll up your UDA value. Just
put in a good word.
She's in the book too. Her name's right at the start because bless her, she proofread the entire book. She's fantastic.
Even
I'm lucky
that one page. Did she proofread that one page?
Damn it, that one page. She actually, she did. I'm going to tell her that. By far the best. See?
There we go.
She's got 3 employees.
There we go. Just flick through. Lots of people saying very informative. Cheers, guys. I knew Raabiha would bring the A game. Any other bits that you want to touch on? Any other things? Well, I normally close it, as I say, with whilst we're waiting for final questions. Is do you have a tip for young dentists, associates? And I always say it doesn't have to be on the topic that we're talking about. So, do you have a clinical tip, for instance? Is there a certain course that you wish you'd done sooner, or is there? Well, you're going to say doing some sort of finding a magic business course or something, but
yeah, I think I'm going to invent it. I've been thinking about it. I might do it.
We'll work it out. There's enough principles on here. I saw Love Teeth were on. There's enough principles. Yes. We can work something out.
That's it. I think it's going to be called the Epic Practice Course or something ridiculous.
Perfect. I like it. There we go. Do you have courses that you'd recommend?
Courses, do you know what? Especially young, newly qualified dentists, I say there are courses you can do, but there's no good teacher like actual practice. Like I feel like they come out and they just like, I need to get on this course. But it's like, how many composite fillings have you done? How many enders? I know I qualified from uni not having done like a full endo. Like I'd done 8 endos, but they were like not, they were like filed a certain canal, filled a certain canal, and separate canals added as like, it was ridiculous. Like, how can you know how to do endo after that such few kind of, criteria? So I would say practice, like get into your first year of practice and just do as much dentistry as you can. Try everything. Have a good mentor. Find a mentor. Have other associates in it. Find a practice where you've got associates. The first thing I would ask, really, is there anybody in the practice that would be willing? Right now it's an associate market. Everyone's looking for good associates. So just be like, is there, just like Freya did actually, my associate, when she applied to another practice, like, will you be
she's logged
to
on
let
now.
me
You don't have to
shadow?
be nice about it.
Yeah, no. She asked, like, really happy to like let me shadow and learn, and she's so keen, and I think that's really important, and that's how you will develop as a clinician, like practice first, and then there are courses you can do for composites and all sorts to kind of polish up your skills, but you need to see kind of put it to practice first, and then realize, oh, this is what I'm struggling with. And then go, like I've done the mistake of going on a photography course, which was fantastic, but not taking anything from it because I hadn't practiced any photography in the first place to know what I was struggling with. So when I went and then took these fancy skills back, I'm like, damn it, I can't use these fancy skills because I can't do the basics. I can't even take a flipping photo. So you need to take a photo first, realize all the bits you struggle with so you can ask them all the questions and then add all the fancy frills.
Yeah, I think I'm with you with that. So I did a podcast with some King's students, the Drill podcast, and we talked a bit about. Well, I did a denture one, obviously, because one trick pony. We did that one, and then they got me back on to talk just like social media.
Yeah,
and courses obviously came up as a part of it. And I've seen like fourth year students on composite courses, and I'm there like my exact thing was like worry about doing an upper 5 endo, like worry about that because you got plenty of, I think photography is an interesting one. So the first course that I did was Minesh's.
Me too. That's the one I'm talking about.
And that's why we all end up taking these great photos because Minesh rolls. And I think that's cool because then you can evaluate if you're taking nice photos and enjoying it. That's one thing. I look at courses make me enjoy it. But then if you're taking good photos and you evaluate it, that's really, really important. And then the other courses the main stuff that I've done bits by bit, like I did Rodri's course quite a bit later, like a year after doing that maybe. And that was just whilst I was in my NHS practice, but it was a nice sort of just like boost. You come back all like passionate and excited. And so I think it can be good there. But you can't beat being at the coalface, can you? And working through it that way.
You're going to make the mistakes and then find your feet and then be like, okay, this is what I'm struggling with and this is what I need to develop in. Definitely.
Get Smiler 20. Where can you find a mentor? So that's an interesting one because obviously you've where was that Minish's course? Yes, Minish's course. Mentors. So I think on here is a great place for an indirect mentor because that's what we're all doing, isn't it? University of Instagram.
Basically, just message them. I've messaged it, like George the dentist. I think I've reached out to lots of dentists on social media and asked for it. Like, how did you do this? Like, if they put a story up, ask. And I get asked that all the time. I'm like, yeah, sure, happy. Like, I'll tell you how I did it. And if they ask me questions, that's fine. So as long as they ask me politely, like, oh, yeah, like, how did you do this? And it's like, who are you? Like, with nice smiles, hi, how are you? Like, can you please explain how you did this? And that's how I ask other people.
Can you send me 7 hours worth of video of start to finish of a denture procedure?
Have you had that before?
Quite a few times.
I've had crazy stuff.
Can you send me videos of literally every point? I'm like, no. Sorry.
I've had people, when I was doing 20 topics, would send me requests and be like, do teeth whitening. Literally, that would be their message. I've never spoken to it. Do teeth whitening. Or make more videos on, like, just random stuff they were telling me on, like, how to do this. I'm like, yeah, sure. Hi, how are you doing?
So in answer to how do you find a mentor, it's not by doing that. But the 20 topics, you say that finding a mentor on here, etc. So I now just ask people to comment alive. It's great. So I just do a live.
That's a good way. Yeah, watching videos as well. That's a great way to be mentored in a way, right?
I had this thing with like when I did the episode with Finley Sutton, I was just like, I can't go on his course, so I'll just see if he wants to come and talk to me about immediate dentures. I was like,
genius.
This is great. Get Smiler. I'm sure it's loving your glasses because you get like 8 different pairs a week, right? You have a.
Yeah, because I keep being told sometimes I look like a grandma in some of them and like midlife crisis and others.
I don't know. They were cool.
Yeah, so I had to change because they were like bigger than my face. I think I was having a crisis. So, I used to hate glasses when I was younger. Now I'm just like
You've
getting
gone
more
the
and
other
more.
way. You've gone too far the other way.
Yeah, so I just keep changing them now. Just like the main feature on my face, you see.
I think glasses aside, mentoring, I think as well. Like we said, Insta and stuff like that, and obviously like local dentists and things. But I think
Yeah,
certain
within the practice.
organisations being a good, like having a good practice around the corner is great. I think organisations like your BDA potentially, where you've got a regional meeting, or I do a lot with the ITI, the implant stuff. Study clubs in your area, and it's a bunch of
Yeah, Dentino
people doing
tubules do
stuff,
that as
and
well. Yeah,
tubules, BACD event,
yeah,
stuff that you enjoy. Organizations will usually have local study clubs, and by definition,
yeah,
people going to those care about learning, and that's a
exactly.
great
And
place to find a
networking
mentor, right?
really helps.
Yeah.
But when I started doing 20 topics, it was for that reason, just to show people like dentistry can be simple, can be enjoyable, and like just bringing complex things and making them simple. And that's how I learned. So every time I would go, I would learn something. Like when I did Ahmed Tadfi, I learned how to do the posterior composite the way he does. I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to try this trick. I'd go home and try it out. So I definitely think networking is a good way as well to find a
Mm.
mentor. You don't have to be one person. You can have mentors. You can have you don't have to just stick yourself to one core person.
And I think a lot of people will have different things to give you. So, I mean, if I wind back to my two bosses, they're both my mentors. The
Yep.
the prosthodontist obviously is a great
Mm,
mentor for me there, but Sarah on the soft skill side and the building a list side, and that has guided me
mm,
through that way too. And then you've got other people, and you say on here that you talk to or anything else. The Whitechapel dentist, on that note, said one of the most useful things I did was spend a day shadowing a prosthodontist. Learned so much. Great way to
mm,
learn, just shadowing people. And there is part of that, I think, as a and that,
yeah.
and that can even be, as we said, that could be my Thursdays that I'm off. I could be down the road at George's if you'd take me, or Tadfi's there as well. And you could be at various places doing shadowing, and not looking at it as a day of lost earnings, but looking at it as a day of developing. And as I say, just
Yeah.
asking, because
Investing in yourself.
most people at some point, if they're good enough at something, have been mentored by someone else as well, and
Mm,
you want to
mm,
keep that chain going.
definitely.
Um, I think we might have questioned everyone out. If there's any other last things, do let us know. Any other top top tips for things you wish you hadn't done maybe earlier in your career, or because it's still what, 7 years graduated?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh, sorry, is
Yeah.
that a glass shattering moment there?
Yeah. 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 It's been, oh goodness, 7 years. Holy moly. Yeah. No, 7 years. That's a long time. Yeah, I would say I actually kind of, funny enough, I liked my journey. I liked that I've always worked in multiple practices. I used to work 2 days in each. And that gave me a lot of variation of seeing different practices, how different clinicians operate, how different owners do things, and how they like what certain things they did and certain things they
Mm.
didn't. I
It's
didn't
a
like what they
valuable
did.
experience to go into rotas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so people say, oh, can I buy straight out of uni? And some people do, like they've got bank of mom and dad. And I'm like, oh, that's like,
I just wouldn't
you
have the
haven't
stones for that.
experienced.
I still like that I've got so many more experience. I know you can say you can hire the right people around you and have specialists and get the practice, or whatever, but I like that everything. I've always got someone in the practice that I can go to.
Yeah.
So that's
I think it's
definitely
really
what I think.
important to have those years of experience before you kind of go into buying a practice and just kind of getting a different experience of how different people do things and just getting that varied clinical experience as well, working in different areas of London as well. So when I used to work in East London, the dentistry practice there was very different to when I was working up, North London or out of North London, the Buckinghamshire. Completely different dentistry, different patient base, and I learned different, like soft skills, communication, speaking to different people, just all of that. I think it's so important. Do all of that before you go and buy practice or do whatever you plan to do. Um,
So I think we've wiped everyone out with the questions. Sunila Board saying very informative. Thank you. So that's perfect. So I'll finish with one more question then. Would you do it again? And I don't mean buying a second practice. I mean,
mm,
now that you've gone through it, if you
yeah.
rewound to 2 years, if you had the time machine, would you go back and slap yourself on the wrist and say, "Don't do that again"? This is the big question.
Yeah, it's a really big question.
I should have
In my head, I'm
prepared you. I should
spinning.
have prepared you for this one, shouldn't I?
In my head, I'm screaming, yeah, I definitely would have slapped my wrists and been like, don't do it. You're going to lose so much time, and your excellent balance that you've got right now. You're going to completely lose it. All your days aren't going to be your days anymore. But then there's so many things that I do like about it that I wouldn't have developed as a person. I think as a person, this past year and a half, I've developed. I've learned to manage my stress better and it just kind of letting things go. Before it used to bother me a lot more, and
Priorities.
yeah, and I'd get a lot of anxiety, and my stomach would go in knots, and I'd just be like, oh, like why is this person like complaining? Why is this staff doing this? Why is this breaking? Why is this happening? And I think over the year and a half, like obviously, just kind of going out of my comfort zone, I feel I've become stronger. So in a way, as a personal growth journey, I would say yes, do it. But also then I think back, do I wish I had all that free time again and zero worries? Yes. So I would just stand there and just debate with myself, do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it. So I don't have I don't have a full answer. Maybe I would let myself do it because at the end of the day, my husband said to me, Robert, you can sell this practice, it's fine, but you wouldn't if you didn't try it, you wouldn't have known. Like you need to experience it,
Yeah.
you need to get out because I'm one of those one trick pony. I'm really comfortable with go to school, get your grades, get your A stars, get to I'm that person, I'm that A star girl, and then if
This
something
is
goes
just the
out of
journey
whack,
that I need to do. Yeah.
yeah, I need to get A to B. And when things go out of whack, I just don't handle it really well. So I think I really needed this because it's so not me and you can't
It's
control
eye-opening
it.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really eye-opening. I think it's character building, and I think it's actually really important. And I'm lucky I did it with my husband because he's really good at understanding just everything. He's so worldly smart, and he's pushed me into reading so many books and getting me to kind of understand the growth mindset. I think before he came along, I didn't have a concept of growth mindset. It was pretty much like this is what one trick pony kind of thing. Just do this. So I think that's this whole journey has been um essential, I think, to who I am now. So definitely, maybe I would now. I don't think I would stop myself. I would
There you
warn
go.
myself though. I
So
would
we've all
warn
got to go
myself.
and buy a practice tomorrow, guys. But we're going to do it on our new website that we've made, where you compare the practice.com.
Comparethepractice.com. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see this backdrop again in like February or something when we're all doing chiropractor stuff together.
Yeah, yeah. I need to warn Khalil that he's going to be on your
Oh yeah, I just
impression
need to
club
message him
soon.
properly, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine.
totally.
You've already signed it off. That's cool. I've asked the boss,
Yeah,
haven't I? So
totally.
that's
He's got no
fine.
choice. It's good.
So I need to pop off now. I need to check who's won the knockout first round of the Impression Club Cup, and we'll have
I'm
two
excited.
semi-finals. I know Tadfi's a long way ahead in his group. He's stormed it, but a lot of them are quite close. So I'm excited to see
Yeah.
that. And then, guys, December is implant month. We're going to do loads of different implant topics to close out the new year. So I'm going to announce who's coming on soon as well. And
Exciting.
I'll
Look
see you
forward to
soon
it.
for 20 topics, part 2. 21
Yes,
topics.
definitely. 21. Oh goodness. Yeah, 2021, isn't it? Yeah.
We'll work on that brand. Oh, 2020. No, it's 2022 next year. So
Holy shit, I lost it.
it'll have to be
Yeah.
2022 topics.
2022 topics. The 222 topics. We'll call it that.
Yes, I like it. There we go. Let's not give away all ideas like live.
No, no, I know. And someone's going to steal our comparethepractice.com. I know it
Right,
now.
let's get on it now. Let's jump off and
Yes, let's go do that.
cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.